Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anneri Meintjes. I'm from the University of the Free State. Thank you very much for the opportunity to do this presentation. So the presentation title there, Blackboard Bootcamp, Back to the Basics. I think it was mainly chosen for the alliteration. Okay, so just as an introduction, as we all know, all of us in this room know how critical the LMS is in the adoption of technology among staff. In fact, according to an article by Brown, Mahoney and Millichap in the July-August 2015 edition of the EduCourse Review, it is estimated that 99% of universities and colleges have an LMS. But despite this adoption rates, an LMS is effective in the administration of learning, but less so in learning itself. In that same article by Brown et al., only 41% of lecturers reported to use the LMS to actually promote interaction outside of the classroom. Now, in a time where higher education is moving away from an instructor-centered system to focus more on learning and the learner, it has become important for us not only to understand whether our institutions have adopted an LMS, but also how we actually use the LMS. So at the University of the Free State, we went back to the basics. In 2013, we developed a framework for the electronic teaching and learning environment. This framework has been presented at this forum earlier by one of my colleagues. I'm not going to go into detail about the findings of that, but I'm just going to highlight the findings that specifically regards to our LMS. So, first of all, the findings of that research show that technology elevates the level of teaching and increases the enjoyment of the learning experience for both the students and academic staff. And that both students and academic staff agree that technology helps them to achieve their teaching and learning goals. And that the majority of students indicated that they are more actively engaged in modules that actually use technology. Technology facilitates connections between students and academic staff, as well as between individuals and the institution. And also in that study, we saw that the use of the institutional LMS at our university is widespread across all three of our campuses. So most of our modules are using Blackboard at the moment, which is our LMS. So then this presentation is about how we actually use the LMS, because we've seen now how many institutions use the LMS, and when we think about the 21st century higher education environment, it's clear that we have to use the LMS effectively. So this presentation is about the data that we have to our disposal about how our lecturers use the LMS and what recommendations we make based on that data. So I think all of us, or none of us, actually have a problem with data. All of us have a lot of data. That's not a problem. But since 2014, we've really started to collect data in a purposive, focused manner to understand technology adoption among our staff. So what we have to our disposal, this on the screen is specifically with regards to the adoption of e-assessment practices, which is also a new thing at the University of the Free State. So last year we conducted focus groups with staff and students. We conducted interviews with staff. All of this included 117 participants, more qualitative data. And then we actually started to pilot the question mark, which is the platform that we use for e-assessment. And we've been using it for 2 months now. So last week, I think, we sent out a survey to students and staff about the experience of the question mark and e-assessment. And we have 202 respondents up to date, but we're hoping to get at least 300 responses. But I'm not really going to focus on this data today. What I'm going to focus on today is the analysis of modules on Blackboard that we did in the second semester of 2014 and the first semester of 2015, which include an analysis of 2,299 modules. We really wanted to understand how our lecturers use the LMS, as I already said. So we focused on the use of tools on Blackboard, not just the amount of modules registered on Blackboard. So in the past, we followed a faculty-based approach where each faculty has a learning designer, and the learning designer or the instructional designer kind of did their own research and saw how, or kind of tried to understand how their faculty was using the LMS. But since the second semester last year, we've started to follow more of an institutional approach to understand how the institution as a whole used the LMS. So we developed a module analysis framework to see how many of the Blackboard modules on Blackboard actually use content tools, collaboration, information, and assessment tools. So first of all, it's important to know that at our university, our modules aren't just automatically registered on Blackboard. Our lecturers have to take initiative and register, or have to indicate that they want their modules registered on Blackboard. So we have had in 2014 a total of 1,087 modules registered on Blackboard, but 22% of those modules were completely empty. So the lecturer indicated they want Blackboard, they want to use Blackboard, but they didn't use any of the tools for the whole entire semester. It was just an empty module. The number of modules actually increased to 2015 from 1,087 to 1,212 modules, but the percentage of empty modules stayed exactly the same, 22% of modules. So this is something that we really need to focus on. Why are our lecturers indicating that they want to use Blackboard, that they want to have their module registered on Blackboard, but they don't actually use it when it is registered on Blackboard? So this is quite significant for us. And then we broke it up into the different tools. So first of all, to see the content tools, the darker color for all of these coming slides are the 2014 data, and the lighter ones are the 2015 data. So for content tools, we looked whether in the Blackboard module, whether there was a study guide, class slides, a web link, additional material, video, audio, glossary. And as you can see there, mostly, or the most prevalent use of content tools was the study guides, the class slides, and additional materials, at about 50%. And it's like some of them are decreasing from 2014 to 2015, and some of them are increasing. And then this is the most telling slide of all. It's about how we use collaboration tools. And as you can see, we really don't actually use collaboration tools. And this, for me, speaks to what I said at the beginning about higher education moving from an instructor-based system to more of a learner-centered approach, where collaboration is important. And we're really not using our collaboration tools. So this is quite important for us to understand how we're going to take the adoption further. Then if we look at the use of information tools, we use it a lot for information sharing, in terms of like using the announcement tool or to make announcements on Blackboard, but not so much for gathering information from our students. So we don't really use the survey. And then our module, we wanted to also see with module evaluations, we also use an electronic system with module evaluations, and some of our lecturers, or we thought a lot of our lecturers, actually post on Blackboard a link to the module evaluation to encourage students to complete the course evaluations, module evaluations, and we saw that only actually 3% of our lecturers do that. And then assessment, which is more of my focus areas, my personal focus area, and this is also not very encouraging to see, but also we haven't really used that much. That's many of the assessment tools, but we knew that at the beginning. That's why we're implementing e-assessment practices now. But you can see there only about 12-13% of the modules actually use quizzes. We thought a lot more modules would use assignments and things like that. And then also graded journals, wikis, or blogs are not really used. So this is just an overall picture that shows how mostly our LMS is used for content and a little bit of information sharing, but not really for collaboration or assessment. So how do we motivate the laggards to adopt technology? First of all, I think it's important to understand what the barriers are to adoption. And at our university, and this is from the qualitative data that we gathered last year, this came up from the students and the staff. The biggest barrier is, I think the biggest barriers are the second and the third ones, a lack of skills and a lack of confidence from our lecturers. And then there's also this big time investment. It's not just transferring everything from paper-based to to an electronic device, it is a pedagogical shift as well. So there's a lot of support needed, and there's a big time investment that goes into that. And then we also need to remember to focus on our student skills, student training, to make sure that our students are comfortable in our electronic environment as well. Infrastructure at a university, we have challenges with large enough computer labs, for instance, so that's also a challenge when you try to get people to adopt technology. And then policies are barriers sometimes. We are now busy to review our assessment policy. There was actually, e-assessment was not regulated in our assessment policy at all, but we are reviewing it now, so we're inserting that part in the policy. So hopefully things like this, movements like this, will help us to overcome some of these barriers. And this is just a very, this quote really encapsulates what our lecturers are feeling, the ones that have a lack of confidence and a lack of skills in terms of technology adoption. One of the lecturers, this is a quote from one of the lecturers in the focus groups last year. "I think that people that are good on a computer underestimate how much time it takes for those of us who are not good on a computer to get things done." We really need to understand that. We need to understand where our lecturers are coming from. We need to understand how they are feeling. We need to support them throughout this process. So our recommendations for the adoption of technology at our university, most important one is staff engagement and feedback, to keep on gathering feedbacks from our staff, to understand where they're coming from, to understand their needs, and then with ongoing support and training. Not just training in the actual technology. We do a lot of Blackboard training. Our lecturers attend Blackboard training in their thousands. We have a lot of Blackboard training, but we need to go further than that. We need to support our lecturers. We need to give them pedagogical support in terms of in terms of course design. We need to remember to follow up with our lecturers after being trained, so that and we need to train them in the specific tools, like, as we've seen, the collaboration tools aren't really used that much. We really need to focus on that area. And then also our student training is important. We're already doing that, but we need to keep on focusing our training on students as well. And then it's important to consider the technical infrastructure. We can't just push for adoption if our technical infrastructure doesn't allow it. We need to be aware of what our technical infrastructure allows, and to make, to prepare for that in that way. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's that from me. Are there any questions or comments from the audience?